Navy SEAL. Navy Facility Engineering Command, Washington Navy Yard, 1322 Patterson Avenue, Southeast Suite 1000, Washington, D.C. 20374-5065. Approved for public release. Navy Railway Operating Handbook. Navy Flag P 301, June 1991. Barcode, CBC Golf Code 440-2, and the distribution list is listed on the second page. And the preface, forward to the publication that has been prepared by the Commander of the Naval Facility Engineering Command. That information presented in this publication has been derived in various industry standards utilized in commercial railroads in the United States. The purpose of this publication is to serve the safety operations maintenance guide for the naval activities operating, handling railroad equipment. Most of the practices contained in this publication are mandatory. Others are recommended. That the word "shall" is used in mandatory requirement. That the word "should" is used in recommended practices. If many instances that the word "should" is previously additions have been replaced by the word "shall," which you encourage to thoroughly review the manual, since it has been completely revised and updated. Pertinent information has been added and non-essential data has been deleted. A change in synopsis provided to highlight the major changes that occur through this manual. Installation commanders shall implement the requirements, recommendations contained in the publication or incorporate them in local railroad operating directives. The publication should be used in conjunction with the pertinent directives to be proved in the safe, reliable railroad operations. Requests for the waivers that submitted through the chain of command and Naval Facilities Engineering Command. Waiver requests and shall include the rationally impact of the safety if the waiver is granted, and impact of the operation if the waiver is not granted. The manual is certified in the and as unofficial publication of the command in accordance with Sec. Navius 5600 and .1610. It has been revived and approved. Captain CEC-USN, Assistant Commander for the Engineering Programs, Naval Facility Engineering Command. Abstract: the publication provides mandatory recommended practices in operation, maintenance, and Navy Railway acknowledgement. 3.2, 3.3 reprinted and basic training manuals of brakeman, switchman, permission of Simons Boardsman Publishing Corporation, first published in 1974. Figures 2.6, A2, A3, and A4 reprinted in 1970. Car Locomotive Encyclopedia of American Practices of Permission of Simons Boardman Publishing Corporation, first published in 1970. Reprinted in 1974. Car and Locomotive Encyclopedia of Army American Practices Permits, Simons Boardman Publishing Corporation, first established in 1974. Figures 2.5 and 2.16 were printed in 1980. Car Locomotive Encyclopedia of American Practices Permission to Simons Boardman Publishing Corporation, first published in 1980. 2.4 and A, 2.4B, A19, A20, and A22 are reprinted from the 1984 Locomotive Encyclopedia of American Practices Permission to Simons Board Publishing Corporation, first published. Where indebted, Safety Offices, Transportation Department, and Naval Surfaces Warfare Crane Naval Ordnance Center of the Indian Head, Maryland, for many hours and devoted to accomplishment of this. The contents give a revision log sheet, changes in synapses, background on the railroad operation, Navy mission, Navy railway operations, pertinent directives of commercial government railroad related organizations, safety, drug alcohol testing related mishap reporting, 2 publication using documentation, and 3 definitions definitions relevant to Navy rail operations, equipment description, car types, boxers, tankers, flat cars, hopper, gondolas, intermediately cars, rail cars, center sills, sub end sills, body sills, cross bearers, ties, and body bolsters, side bearings, couplers, draft gears, pockets, trucks, center stills, cover plates, floor stingers, diagonal places, braces, stack pockets, car brake system, hand brake systems, air brake system, Navy locomotive type, locomotive propulsion braking system, miscellaneous equipment, cranes, car movers, high railers, railer equipment, railroad track components and geometry. And 3.1 operations practices, basic general basic skills, general guidelines, locomotive safety, pier operations, barricade operations, mounting, riding, climbing, railway cars, locomotive switch cars, inspection during operations, locomotive inspection, setup, car consistent inspection, initial terminals, air system, air testing, intermediate training, air testament, other inspections, track structure, inspections, general operation training, operation, track crew notices, notification, emergency vehicle, track out of service procedures, singles, flagging, protection, switching and spotting cars, securing equipment, weighing cars, handling and special handling on suspect cars and derailment, other incidents, handling cars with defects, dead man controls, guidelines, handling trespassers, trespassers or demonstrators, operation or car movers and high railers, track mobilities and track equipment, pre-departure brake test, the locomotive brake system with multi-unit operation, locomotive engineering brake test for one unit and MUs, train line air brake test, initial terminal train line air brake test, road intermediate test, train handling, start and training service automatically, train line breakage and emergency braking, independent braking, speed control, use of sand, extremely emergency, 6 radio procedures, transmission train orders by the radio, hero consideration, emergency transmission, 7 dispatch, 8 crew size, hazardous material prevention, derailment, and issue emergency response, D plat cars, 4 skills, area job description, locomotive engineer, conductor, brake switchers, dispatcher, yard tester, yard master, railroad supervisor, locomotive rail car master, maintenance, general, daily locomotive maintenance department, three quarterly locomotive maintenance department, air hose, battery, drive belts, engines, electric relays, contactors, charging, and generator pedestals, general box, wear plates, electric brushes, air safety, air gauges, safety appliances, ladders, handhold steps, air brake systems, brake shoes, brake linkage lights, horn, bell, windshield wipers, sanders, spark arresters, event recorders, annual locomotive maintenance depot, wheels, canter blades, bearings, side bearings, engine cooling, tanking, fuel and oil tanking, air breaker filters, axle bearings, planing journal, axle bearings, spool, roller trucks, gears, air brake system controls, air compressor, couplers, training motor, noise, suspension, traction motor, support, bearing, lubrication, traction motor, and traction generators, biannual, and the rest of the content. And then we'll go on to the figures, and a list of tables, a list of forms and appendices, a revision log sheet for the employee sign-in sheet. The changes to the sign-ups. The changes to the sign-ups is clarification for previous version of P03.1 for the better flow of subject. The necessary relocate information from one section of this book into another section of the book. In some cases, information was moved to another chapter. For example, information of track surveillance in Section 2 to equipment description was moved to Section 3. In most instances, highlighted and changed sign-ups. Complete review of the new manual. Highly encouraged that these major changes affecting management on the activities of the railroad program. Section 1, the deleted ship parts of control centers as activities of the utilized railway equipment change percentages of the railway mileage of the naval shipyards of 20% to 10%, change rail on mileage for various other activities to 10% to 20%. Deleted reference of Navy Flag P306 added to Navy Flag P03 and P037 as references. Licensing covered in Section 7 and the Navy Flag P03 and Navy C OP 4461 changed to Navy C SW023AG WHMO000. The further defined purposes of commercial government related to organizations associated American Railroads, the AAR, and the Federal Railroad Administration, and added information in standard code, operating rules, and AAR standards, recommended practices, interchangeable rules, Part 219, control alcohol and drug abuse, added is frequently used in the section, Chapter Code 50, Code Federal Regulatory System 49, revised the section of clarifying safety intent as well as eliminated redundance for paragraphs was condensed to 3. Added this section as emphasis needed for railroad personnel to comply with drug alcohol testing. Added this section added and clarify how railroad mishaps shall be reported in Section 1.3. The definitions added. Number of definitions common to the railroad operations. Buff the forces consists of the cut of cars, draft, buff conditions, draft forces, full service application, grade, crossing, MUs, multiple units, and soaping. The section 2 equal descriptions. A picture added to intermodal containers, cars, and definition of section 2.1e and paragraph 2.2 words reflecting basic elements deleted, and figure 2.2 2.3 basically reflects same data and consider it adequate. Title has been changed to end sills and body sills, vice end sills, and side sills. Section 2.2d in title has been changed in body bolster, body side bearings, vice body bolster, and side bearings. 2.2f title has been changed to body and draft gear, vice of the draft gear. The added clarification of added definitions of basic railway car components. Definition of center sill covering the plate of the floor, stringers, diagonal braces, stake pockets has been added, and definitions on the car brake system is combined with the definition of the air hand brake system. Figure 2.7, the modulator was added in the picture since the valve is required from some cars from the actual composition of the shoes. Section 2.1 and 2L and 2N of the complete revised clearly defined of the handbrakes versus the air brake system in a previous edition and is discussed in this mix. The minute word changes made be the sentence of these locomotives are the newest addition to the Navy's fleet was deleted. The 2.3b stated added and reflected in the track type of brake system commonly found on locomotives for example 6RL, 24RL, and 26L series. The section 2 and 3b, since the handbrake is used in secure locomotive, any type of this left unattained or attempts to stop the locomotive in an emergency. If the air brakes fail the function, the word attempts would be added. The section 2.4, the recommended crane censure of the following was added to further clarify the requirement lesser class and that may be required other than the loads clearance and envelope statement. All railroad cranes must be properly weighed and tested and certified in accordance to the Navy Flag 307, but before putting into service was added in the section added other railway equipment including the equipment, and there are the pieces of equipment which move over the track. An example of the track maintenance: motor cart, man over wheels, MOW, gauging, spotter, pusher cars, tampering, the insert brush cutter maintenance, speeding swing, and hand powered track maintenance equipment. Section 2.5, information track surveillance relocated in section 3 along figures in 2.2 2.3 since the concerned operations of equipment description, the operation practices and procedures. The word switchman was changed to personnel for the step in the safety lift and was changed to the correct method of lifting. Picture was word is inconsistent. Words were pictures were inconsistent. Relocated is in the material word walking near the tracks, crossing tracks, or foot on the section of since there was two considered general guidelines: 31B, 31C, 31D. Previously 31C and D, 31C and 8, and 31C 9, 31C and 10, respectively. Section 3, page 30.5, figure 3.2. The board was changed to mounting. 3.7, figure 3.4. Note that the latter has been shortened to comply with the OSHA, and the brake handling of the top was relocated and added, and choking and specifically addressed that the highly interested in during the revision process and properly chalked rail equipment and could contribute in the derailment and other problems. The section has been retitled the track switches and procedures of throwing switches and turnout information that has been expanded to further clarified. Section 3.1 F is 7 added the derail procedures, emphasized the place on the ensuring the activity of management that needed to protect the derail devices and prepare the standards of operating procedures. Title change 3.2 title change the equipment inspection and inspection during the operations. 3.2A 3 the term MU was defined as well as section 1 under the definitions as multiple unit. Section 3 figure 3 picture showing examples of defective air hoses had been revised and labeled in clarification. Section 3.8 gauging defective wheels was moved from A5 since the related is more maintenance and rather than operational requirement. Section 3.2B and 3.2B3 and 3.B7 definitions of coupler knucklers and overheated wheel or journal air brake shoes were expanded. Section 3.25, the track structures inspection. This was relocated in Section 2.5 C. See the figure, section 3, figure 3.9, and explain defective ties. 3.10 examines broken damaged rails. 3.11 freight car harmonic roll, rock and roll, and were previously figures 2.22, 23, and 26, respectively. Again, section 2 addresses the equipment description only. Section 3.E3 as the added whistle boards and added emphasis on conduction annual concern where whistle boards shall be replaced and added in figure 3.4 14A and 3.14B provides whistleboard shape dimensions and well as specifications, expands the required installation and commander to issue written right waiver for performing role by doing the danger involved. Section 3.4b completely revised the emphasis temps procedures for various brake systems in 6 RLs, 24 RL, and 26 series of brake systems. Section 3.5 added the figures 316 and the show illustration of the draft and bus surfaces, also definition section 1. And 3.9, figure 3.17 updated and show the latest type of hazardous material plat cards used in the industry. Section 3, pages 30.1 through 3.49 are grammar changes, section changes, and throughout this chapter are carefully reviewing this interchange. Skills and areas added. Section 4, skills and areas added. Job description of railroad supervisor has added job description for the locomotive engineering conductor, brake switchers, conductor, dispatcher, yard master have been expanded as well as clarified. Section locomotive railway car maintenance in the section contained by multiple duplication viewed as ill-defined, therefore required for the moves revamping. Section originally 5.1 through 5.49 and revised in section 5 covers the 5.1 through 5.10. The rest of the requirements have been separated into Appendix A and covers the detail associated with the various maintenance actions. In addition, several maintenance requirements were added to make the program more efficiently and effectively. Section 5.1 heating and locomotive expectation reports engine manual was deleted since it adequately addressed in Section 3. The section was retitled General Emphasis is the need is to perform the maintenance services on the SS, and in the section of we state the installation commander should have the particular file identified and accomplishment with maintenance actions. We believe that this is an important point to make. Section 5.3 Quarterly inspections. Quarterly maintenance requirements have been carefully summarized by the type of inspection required. 5.4 Annual locomotive maintenance. Maintenance personnel are directed to inspect that they were required in a quarterly inspection as well as all any manufacturer's requirements. That inspection items have been summarized by annual. Maintenance requires all annual inspections biannual inspections be completed as all manufacturers' recommendations, which are sometimes overlooked. Section 5.6 General locomotive maintenance. The wording of the section has undergone minor provisions in section 5.6 under one of the referred of the rail card inspection train man. The section has been deleted adequately addressed in section 3.2 is the book. Section 5.7 rail car inspection maintenance and the various inspection including the annual, triannual, 72-month inspection as are addressed and maintenance are referred to as the appendix A, and more explicit details of these inspections added in rail car unscheduled inspections, clean oil testing and stencils. The COT&S are his emphasis as action of the railway derail is highlighted in section 5.7A. Is added in its exercise journal bearings, and the item was added and is because of the likelihood of the railway car sitting on the activity section requires a program but be put in place of exercising rails with roller bearings as they have not moved in the last 45 days, and the decontamination of some activities handled in energetics materials that can become enlarged in the floorboards and rail cars and other areas. And this section emphasizes a program that can reduce and not eliminate the potential and incident and occurring guidelines goal determination. Section 6.1 the section has broken down into the two sections, one addressed in speed consideration, other referred as additional consideration affected speed. Otherwise, the continents has very few changes. 6.2 the section addresses cross factors previously referred to crossing protection factors. In section we have updated the publication in that pertaining grade and crossing the manual track control devices should there be Any additional questions, agree grading costs. And the telephone number is provided in the contact the Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration. 6.3, renamed time of duty, dispatching, crew calling, information pertaining crew dispatching, absolute blocks and address in section 3.7, railway car information, intermix. The previous crew size was relocated and has been relocated. The informational rail car intermix is now updated and refers to the Department of Transportation Bureau of Explosives 6000 for information of the hazardous material loaded on segregation charts if needed. In the section emphasizes the actions that should be taken when commercial railway equipment and requirement to drop off and pick up material in naval ordnance activities. Section 7, crew license, and importance ensuring personnel and properly licensed to on the railway equipment proper to the function in its own section and test to be administered by the brakeman, conductor, engineering, all discussed in the various forms included in Appendix B, and these forms were previously found in the Navy Flag PO306, which is now obsolete. Added the provided general information to the personnel involved with the handling ammunition and explosive A&E in the Navy, specialized address and qualification certification requirements for train handling and A&E. Section 8 added the section emphasizing the need for safety department to be involved in the active railroad program and especially tasked the installation commander to develop plans and ensure safety department involvement in captive railroad operations. Appendix A, locomotive railway inspection maintenance requirements. This section in set 5 represents the detailed inspection maintenance requirements of locomotive railway cars. We have clarified the material and made it easier to read and understand. Section Appendix B, railroad management forms. All forms management that have been complied in the section, including forms previous of the Navy Fact 306 concerning the testing of brakeman, conductor, and engineering. Indexes on previous revised PO31 includes and design and help to use and locate information in a timely fashion. Terminology. The terminal installation is used through the manual. It refers to individual and ultimately responsible management railroad program. Example, commanding officer and activity safety advisor. Prior to finally printing this manual to the Federal Railroad Administration and noticing advisory addressing safety practices related to lifting and jacking in the railroad equipment and in order to remote trucks and repair components on a piece of railroad equipment in which these involves work beneath the railroad equipment, which is among these things address and selection, weather and awareness equipment and selection equipment inspection, preparing for lifting and angularity and safety supporting periodic inspection and safety supervision. Number of these issues is addressed in the manual. Personnel involved in railroad operations and should obtain safety advisory notice number 99-1. Section 1 in background and introduction. The railroad operation, Navy mission, and steel rails, rules, and method of transporting commodities, almost in the U.S. Navy itself, although it design and materials that make up a railroad system that have been evolved and have been refined over the years. Of the concept advantage of the railroad transports remaining unchanged and as often may efficiently move to large volumes of materials, lands in itself to transfer bulky and heavy objects, and the need and maintain internal material movement capability, sustaining individual levels of over potential long periods, is often filled by the railway-based operation, additional by ongoing operations and production, loading, unloading, building, and repairing, and relying heavily on various rail-based systems on transportation needed. It should not be noted that the Navy equipment is over than 40 years old. Navy railroad rolling stock does not currently meet the FRA standards. Will be program budgeted for the upgrading and soon as practical consideration Navy funded for scheduling priorities. B. The rail operation installation of internal operations include ranging physical operation requirements. Naval activities to utilize the rail and can be divided into three basic categories: ordnance related weapons stations, weapons supporting centers, ordnance station, operations support shipyards, submarine bases, air stations, other construction battalion centers, and supply centers, public works and center. The Navy Weapons Station is the largest user in the rail with over 70,000 Navy railed mileage. The movement of the ordnance related to the function is in the rail network of naval weapons and stations is similar to those of short line commercial operations completely the main lines and classification yards. However, they are always many unique aspects such as the piers and the bunkers and barricades, the special demands in the conduct of the safe operation. Naval shipyards represent a significant portion of the Navy rail and approximately 10% of the Navy railroad mileage. Shipyards are similar to commercial industrial rail facilities with the track going on the railroad buildings and shared right-of-ways and rail with roads depressed switches in the roads and many clearances, tight curves of vertical horizontal. However, there are as many unique features of shipyards, and including the transportation of various hard commodities, ranging in the radioactive water and various petroleum products shared with rails and cranes, never to be the coupler extensions on some of the extreme tightly curves and wide variety. The freight and low volumes, high density surroundings, but put additional demands on train crews' adherence to the safety operating procedure. Various other activities comprise 20% of the railroad mileage and the Navy. These railway systems important to the special services and roles, layout, operational methods, and installations often are unique. Sometimes employ unique equipment such as car movers and high rail equipment require applications of additional operation procedures, rules, and not relevant to other Navy railway systems. Pertinent directives: Navy Pack 30, Navy Pack 30 P30, management of civil engineering support equipment covers management of transportation equipment. Navy Pack 307, management of weight handling equipment covers the management of weight handling equipment. Navy Pack 301, MO31, maintenance of trackage, railway track, and naval activities, and Navy Fastest Instruction 11230-01 Series Inspection Certification and Audit for a Crane and Railway Trackage. The President's Uniform Track Inspection Procedures Maintenance Guidelines, the Navy OPMAN Volume 1, Ammunition and Shore Safety Applications, Handling the Storing and Production and Renovation of shipping covers issues concerned with some rail operations related to the movement of ammunition of explosives. Navy SO323 AG WHM 010010. Technical manual and station movement and ammunition explosive truck and rail car covers the maybe concern rail operation movement and ammunition explosives. Navy's 8023.2C U.S. Navy explosive safety policies, requirements, and procedures covers the principal naval explosive safety policies, procedures approved by Office of Chief of Naval Operations, NAV, guidance of contractor safety and requirements, Navy C and 023-11 standard operating procedures and process expanding ordinances, and naval activities. Covers and policy guidances, direction development using standards operations, the SOPs, and the process expanding non-nuclear ordinances, Navy Marine Corps activities in accordance with the Navy Sea Op Volume 1 and Navy Sea Op Navius 8023.23. Commercial and Government Railroad Organization Association, American Railroad maintains published such as industrial guideline, field manual, interchanging industrial agreements, and established standards and interchanging inspection of the repair railway cars. AAR, which develops, maintains specification freight car component. Navy installations shall be concerned with AAR standards and car accepted for the interchange of those and delivered and interchange in car captivity and naval installation do not come under the AAR recommended practices and interchanges rules or practices rules to provide and useful guidance and standard code of operation rules and AAR code and manual. The manual is provided the guidelines of preparation, activity, railroad operation and manuals, and if the rules contained in the manual are used and quoted in rule vice. The number of those letters designated the rule. AAR standard recommended practice, interchanging rules, and for publication provides on railway car standards. Some standards, locomotive interchange rules, the Federal Railroad Administrator (FAR) and the regulatory agency under the Department of Transportation in accordance with the development and modifying and enforcing the regulation commercial railroad of the United States regulations formation of the FRA equipment and safety appear for the Title 49 Code of the Federal Regulations, and if the DoD installation railway equipment facilities accept for compliance with the FRA railway standards, the DoD policy to comply with the FRA standards for both railing, stocking, and trackage. The most frequently used in Title 49 files in Part 215 Railroad Freight Car Safety Standards. Part 219, Control of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Part 229, Railroad Locomotive and Safety Standards. Part 231, Railroad Safety Appliance and Standards. Part 2.3.2, Railroad Power and Brake Drawbars. Safety. Safety must be priority. Almost personnel disregarding safety practices. Needlessly put, safety must be at the top priority of all personnel. Disregard any safety programs needless to put workers and the general public, any government and private property at risk and increasing potential impairing operational readiness. Safety rules and standards operable procedures are in the protection of the personnel as well as the safeguarding government property. All personnel engaged in the rail operation must be conservation with the obey of the safety special instructions governing in their particular rail operation. Naval railroad operation involved the movement and hazards and equipment, often to potential conflicting paths in the accident that can lead for death and serious injury and crew members of the other personnel, consistent with vigilancy and required involved in people and involved in railway to avoid errors of judgment and caused by familiarity with an inattention to everyday repetitive tasks. 3. The rule developed instituted to the address specific operation issues and ultimate responsibility of safety operation installation commander. However, those that supervise and dispatch operate trains and directly responsible for the railroad safety rules can be written in every conceivable railway option. Rules and framework under this which safety operation can be built in common sense and desire to work for safety manner, drug or alcohol testing. Navy personnel involved in the operation and training subject to drug and alcohol testing due to public and safety consideration. As a minimum, conductor, engineer, brake switcher must be inspected. Installation commander such shall ensure that all railroad personnel, include 3 crew members listed above, and dispatcher, railroad supervisor comply drug, alcohol testing and program announced with their requirements and procedures. The Department of Navy Office of the Personnel Management OCP Instruction 12792.3. Note: inclusion of the dispatcher, railroad, and supervisor must be in stringent requirements contained in the OCPM Instruction 12792.3. Railroad mishap reporting. Railroad mishap includes incidents or derailment, conclusion with operation, other transportation, train stops and moving vehicles, equipment and track structures, and hot box fires, personal injuries, property damage, shifted loads due to improper blocking and racing, handling, complying and requiring inspection and loaded and railway car. Railroad mishap shall be reported in accordance to Op Navy Instruction 5102.1, Op Navy Instruction 5102.3, Navy Flag 300, Navy Flag P301, Navy Flag Instruction 11230.1, series and the operator. The publication update. All revision and publication should be required for revision and log sheet and incorporated in the handbook, and that doesn't until the definitions are relevant in the new tape.